Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys, my name is Hasanah. Now, I want to tell you about adjective clause. First, we have to know what the meaning of adjective clause. Jadi sebelumnya kita harus tahu dulu nih, adjective clause itu apa sih? Okay, let me tell you. Adjective clause is a clause that describe an adjective. Jadi adjective clause itu adalah klausa yang menjelaskan tentang adjektif atau kata sifat. Adjective clause is better known as relative clause because the role of the adjective clause is provide new information related to the object, which is the subject of the sentence. Jadi, adjective clause itu lebih dikenal sebagai relative clause karena peran adjective clause itu adalah memberikan informasi baru yang berkaitan dengan benda yang menjadi subjek kalimat. The characteristic of adjective clause. First, there is a subject followed by verb. Second, preceded by relative pronoun or relative adverb, or so-called connector. Jadi, ciri-ciri dari adjective clause itu adalah yang pertama, memiliki subjek dan diikuti verb. Kemudian yang kedua adalah didahului dengan relative pronoun atau relative adverb, atau biasanya disebut sebagai konektor. Example, I remember the man who I killed yesterday. Who I killed yesterday is an adjective clause. I remember. I as the subject of the sentence. Remember as the verb of the sentence. Who I killed yesterday. Who as relative pronoun or called connector. I as a subject of clause. And kill as a verb of clause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Khoirun Nisa Rosari. I want to tell you about relative pronoun as a object. Relative pronoun is a pronoun atau kata ganti to from a relative clause or adjective clause. The relative clause itself is a subordinate clause which explain the noun atau kata benda or pronoun atau kata ganti in the main clause in a complex sentence. In a relative clause, a relative pronoun can function is subject, object, or possessive, and does not represent a number, singular or plural, and or gender, male or female. In this position, the relative pronoun is who, whom, whose, which, and that. Example is who. Who and whoever have the function of connection the noun in the from a person or subject or object of sentence with the verb in the relative clause. In a relative clause, this relative pronoun function as a subject or object. Example, the sentence is I am looking for someone who is willing to help me fix my sink. The reason is who is the subject of the verb is willing and forming a relative clause which explains someone. Next is which. Which and whichever have two functions of connecting noun, object, animal, or sometimes people, subject, or object of sentence with a relative clause, which is more specific than what in a relative clause. This relative pronoun acts as a subject or object. Example is he can choose a room whichever he likes. The reason is whichever is the object of the verb is likes and the form a relative clause which describe the direct object room. Next, whose. Whose is function of state ownership of object and people described in the clause section. Example is the woman whose car I want to buy is my old friend. The reason is whose is possessive with car as the noun it has. Next, whom. Whom more are formal form of who and whoever. Whom is often preceded by a preposition or serves and an object of preposition. This relative pronoun function as an object in relative clause. From a relative clause that describe team. Example is the team whom you were watching has won 3 gold medals. The reason is whom is the object of the verb were watching and next that function to connect nouns in the form of object or sometimes people who are the subject or object of a sentence with a relative clause. In a relative clause, this relative pronoun acts as a subject or object. Example is the laptop that I bought 5 years ago is still work properly. The reason is that is the object of the verb is bought and from a relative clause that describe is laptop.
Okay, my name is Nur Andika. Here I will explain one part of adjective clause. That is RPS, relative pronoun as subject. RPS or relative pronoun as a subject is clause that describe or replace the subject itself. The conjunction used are who, which, and that. Who in here used to replace or describe a person, and which in here used to replace or describe a non-person. And for that, we can use to replace person or non-person. So, if the subject is a person, we can use who, but if the subject is non-person, we can use which, and for that we can use both of them. As an example, here I will give two sentences. The sentence is, we saw a man and he ate a fish. Now, how do we combine these two sentences using conjunction in relative pronoun as a subject or RPS? At first, we have to find the same noun of these two sentences. In these two sentences, there is a same noun. The noun is man and he. So, because the noun is he or person, we will use who as a conjunction, and the sentence become, we saw a man who eating a fish. We saw a man who eating a fish. And that sentence, the adjective clause is a who eating a fish. Who in this sentence a function as conjunction with describe or replace he, a subject. It happened because the noun is a person. But if the noun is not person, we cannot use who, but we must use which or that. Okay, well, that's what I can explain about RPS, relative pronoun as a subject.
My name is Lia Tri Aida Saputri. Okay, next, relative adverb. Relative adverb used to connect an independent clause with its adjective clause. The key of relative adverb are the first. First, where. Where is used to describe a noun that states a place. 2. When. When describe a time. 3. Why. Why explaining the reason. 4. How useful it is to initiate a description or description of something. Example, Banda Aceh is a city where I was born. Where I was born is adjective clause. Where above describe the word city, which indicate the place. Thank you for listening. My authors we have shall be beneficial for all of us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.